Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really polarizing piece of internet commentary from the creator Nux Taku. And we're going to cut straight through the inflammatory rhetoric to deconstruct exactly how sports, gender discussions, and internet economics all kind of collide in this specific broadcast.
So, to set the stage for you, the core premise here relies heavily on extreme hyperbole, intense sarcasm, and, well, pure shock value. The main target? What this creator perceives as modern ideological systems infiltrating professional sports, specifically women's basketball. Let's take a look at the nuts and bolts of how this argument is actually put together. Because the source text jumps rapidly across a lot of different topics, we're going to methodically organize this commentary into 5 distinct, easy-to-follow themes. 1. Gender and the WNBA. 2. The WNBA business model. 3. Reactions to players and coaches. 4. Broader societal critiques. And 5. The economics of outrage.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Gender and the WNBA, focusing on the satirical draft declaration. In the commentary, there's this recurring satirical bit where the creator claims he's going to declare for the WNBA Draft in 2017. He literally states he will identify as, quote, sometimes identifying as a woman for purposes of professional basketball. His assertion here is that the only way to expose what he views as a flawed system is to completely break it, by taking its rules to their extreme natural conclusion.
Now, what's really interesting is the real-world catalyst for this whole rant. He cites reports, specifically from ESPN, that a WNBA task force actually met for hours to discuss transgender athletes, but ultimately didn't arrive at any clear eligibility rules. He uses this kind of administrative paralysis to frame the league's leadership as basically incapable of defining basic realities.
Transitioning over to Section 2, the WNBA business model, looking at independence versus subsidy.
Here, the creator takes aim at the financial foundation of the WNBA, arguing it just doesn't exist on its own economic merit. By framing the NBA as the actual revenue generator, he labels the WNBA as a subsidized charity project. And by leveraging this financial perspective, he's essentially arguing that a heavily subsidized entity shouldn't be dictating cultural norms if it isn't generating equal viewership. Right? That's the real crux of his economic argument.
Okay, moving right along to Section 3. Reactions to players and coaches, specifically those on-court controversies.
He highlights a really specific on-court altercation to make his point, focusing on Sophie Cunningham getting elbowed in the face by Dejounte Carrington. Now, while he fiercely defends Cunningham and completely dismisses any claims of white privilege, the commentary heavily mocks Carrington's defense. The whole idea that a physical foul could somehow be attributed to socioeconomic factors is violently rejected here. He's basically framing a foul as, well, just a foul.
Furthermore, the focus shifts over to Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve and her Trans Kids Belong shirt. He interprets this as a direct troll aimed at players who advocate for biological definitions in sports. The main critique here centers on perceived hypocrisy, demanding gender equity in coaching jobs while simultaneously supporting policies that allegedly blur those exact same gender lines.
And this brilliantly sets up our fourth theme, Section 4, broader societal critiques regarding entitlement and ideology.
It is absolutely crucial to note that he relies super heavily on hyperbole here. He uses extreme exaggeration to argue that society has become what he calls an anti-reality cult. In his view, modern institutions have just completely stopped solving for equal opportunity, and instead, they're dangerously trying to mandate equal outcomes, regardless of merit, physical reality, or actual production. To really drive this home, the commentary claims modern political framing is driven heavily by unearned entitlement. His argument suggests that many people want the safety nets of socialism because they produce, quote, literally nothing of tangible economic value to society, yet they still feel entirely entitled to be paid and praised. See how he does that? He seamlessly ties his earlier point about the WNBA's reliance on NBA money directly into this massive, broader societal claim of subsidy. Finally, let's get into the really fascinating meta-twist of this whole explainer. Section 5, the economics of outrage, or how to monetize controversy. There is a highly specific pipeline for the modern controversial creator, and it maps out perfectly here. Step 1, post highly polarizing, shocking commentary. Step 2, get fully demonetized by YouTube for violating their policies, but here is where it gets incredibly interesting. Step 3, secure alternative income streams, like direct app sponsorships, like the Tester Up app he mentions. And then step 4, use that main platform's rejection basically as a badge of honor to funnel a loyal audience over to uncensored platforms like Rumble, Kick, and Patreon. It is a completely independent business model built straight out of demonetization.
To put the sheer volume of work required to sustain this into perspective, just look at the numbers. To keep this alternative ecosystem afloat without traditional YouTube ad revenue, he states he has to upload 3 to 4 exclusive deep dive videos on Patreon every single week, alongside streaming almost daily on Kick and Rumble. The controversy isn't just a viewpoint for this creator. It's a highly demanding, high-volume economic engine that literally relies on constant, non-stop engagement from a dedicated fan base.
Which brings us to our final takeaway. How does the monetization of extreme controversy actively mold the cultural commentary we consume? I mean, if internet creators are financially incentivized by alternative platforms and direct subscriptions to be as shocking, polarizing, and hyperbolic as possible just to survive, we really have to ask ourselves, are we watching a genuine cultural critique, or are we simply watching the economics of outrage at work? It is a fascinating lens to view modern media through. And that's the question I'm going to leave you with today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. And remember, always keep questioning the structure of the media you consume.